My name is Haidi and I'm 15 years old. I'm standing in the shadows because I'm very ashamed to tell my story, but I decided that for the sake of other girls like me, I need to tell it. Would you like to know exactly what I'm hiding? Children used to poke fun at me and my mum, and adults would sympathetically shake their heads and feel sorry for us. I think she was very unhappy when we lived together, just the two of us, but then this man Jeff appeared in the picture. Their union was quickly followed by the birth of my younger sister, and a year later, my younger brother. But despite the new places of my siblings, I began to feel like I had no place in this family at all. My mum was always busy with the younger ones, but I kind of expected it. Not only were they younger and needed more attention, but they were both normal, unlike me. My younger brother and sister had a dad who didn't leave them straight after their birth and loved them unconditionally. I was very envious of them. My mum seemed to forget that I even existed, and I decided to remind her as little as possible. She had enough on her plate, but then again, soon I would too. At my school, it seemed like my classmates had a competition running. Who could create the most offensive nickname for Haidi? The winner was undoubtedly Charlie. He called me Wormface. By high school, everyone had forgotten my real name. I didn't tell anyone that I was being called names. After all, what was the point? I was used to no one listening or anybody loving me. Around the time I entered high school, I used to fantasize about my dad. I used to dream that he would return, big and strong, and upon learning what was going on at school, he would fix everything. Cruel Charlie would get it the worst. I wished it was reality so badly. Once, I actually wrote a letter to my dad. I poured my soul onto that page, telling him everything about my school life, the name calling, and the dream of meeting him once again. But I didn't send the letter. Where would I send it, of course? I decided to save up my pocket money for surgery. I'd remake my face into a beautiful one, leave this town, and start a new life somewhere in the city. In the meantime, to keep myself busy, body and mind, I went swimming. I liked it so much. I just swam, day in, day out, until one day who should appear but Charlie, cruel Charlie, by the side of the pool. It was there and then that my nightmare began. After swimming for most of the evening, I showered, changed, and went home. Whilst on my way home, my phone went off and I saw I had a video message from Charlie. When I opened it, I was stunned and horrified by what I saw. This douche, whilst I was swimming, had somehow got a hold of my towel and, well, jerked off on it. I had used this towel to dry off not 30 minutes ago. How disgusting. I cried all the way home, but the worst was yet to come. Charlie had showed the video to all our classmates. To my surprise, many people thought it was too far and cruel, but found it hilarious, and the mockery of me continued. I fantasized more and more of the day my dad would come and knock Charlie's teeth out. 2 weeks later, I discovered to my horror that I was late. 5 days late, in fact. I was constantly sick and dizzy at the time for no obvious reason. I remember my mother having similar feelings when she was pregnant with my brother and sister. I remembered the towel. And Charlie. What if I was pregnant from this jerk? I shuddered as I remembered drying myself everywhere with that damn towel. On the internet, I checked and to my horror discovered that it was possible to get pregnant this way. I desperately wanted to talk with someone, but alas, there was nobody for me to talk to. I rushed alone to the pharmacy for a pregnancy test. It confirmed my worst fears. I was pregnant and my baby's father was cruel Charlie. I gathered my meager savings and decided to fix things. I would not have his child. The very next day, I went to a doctor and explained my sorry little tale. I begged the doctor to save me from this terrible pregnancy. I asked him not to tell my parents anything because I was ashamed. The doctor listened and then told me that stopping the pregnancy would be impossible. When I heard those words, I lost consciousness and collapsed to the floor. I woke up in the hospital ward. My mum was sat beside my bed and was crying softly. I began to stammer out an apology, trying to explain about the towel and Charlie. But she didn't listen to a word I said. She showered me in kisses and began to ask for forgiveness. I didn't understand anything that was happening. Forgiveness for what? "Mum, I'm pregnant," I shouted. There was a moment, perhaps the longest in my life, before my mum reacted. With tears in her eyes, she explained, "I wasn't pregnant. I couldn't be. My ovaries did not work as they should do. There was an abnormality in my body that caused the pregnancy test to show a positive result. My appearance was a direct result of this hormonal imbalance too. Behind my mother, a figure appeared in the doorway and something incredible happened. A man came into the room with a bouquet of flowers. He approached my bed timidly. "Heidi, I'd like you to meet someone. This is your dad." And again, I almost passed out. I couldn't believe it. Here in the hospital room, where I couldn't hide my face, I met the most important person in my life. I will never forget his first words to me, the daughter he had never seen. "You were the most beautiful girl in the world. I'm so glad I have a chance to meet you." The truth came out there and then, in that hospital room, between the three of us. My father hadn't known that I even existed. My mum explained everything. She was older than my dad, and when she fell pregnant with me, she had just graduated from college, whilst my dad was still in high school. They hadn't met for long, a few weeks at most, but they were very much in love. My mum had begun to make plans for the future when my dad informed her that he was leaving. He had won a scholarship to swim at a college on the other side of the country. My dad was a fantastic swimmer. Now it's clear why I love swimming so much. My mum had decided that my dad didn't love her at all. In anger, she told him that she didn't need a guy like him and that she had already found another. Things were said and they both cut off contact. It was after he had left that my mum discovered she was pregnant with me. She wanted to tell him about her pregnancy, but her pride would not let her contact him. But why did she decide to contact him now? After the hospital had called her about my collapse, my mother had rushed to my room to collect a few things that she thought I might like to have with me. Among them, she saw the letter that was addressed to my father. My mum had no idea of what my life was like, of the names I was called at school, of my loneliness, of how I longed to have my dad, my real dad. She resolved to fix this, and whilst I was unconscious, she had tracked my father down on social media and sent him a message. She told him the truth. It turned out that he had his own family, with 3 sons, but he always wanted a daughter. The more we spoke, the more I discovered, including that me and my dad share something other than a love of swimming. Do you remember that Charlie called me worm face? Well, I have a mark on my face. It turns out that my dad has something similar, only it is on his back and a little bit smaller. The biggest shock was waiting for me after. When I asked my dad to show me the photos of my brothers, Charlie was on one of them. I burst into tears and told my father about his hazing and his wormy face. I kept quiet about what Charlie did with the towel. Do you know what? Everything happened as I wished. Dad dealt with him. Now Charlie doesn't bother me and generally ignores. Have you ever felt that nobody wanted you? Tell your loved ones about your feelings. Believe me, you'll feel better. Heck, you might even become as happy as me, even if some people think you have a worm face. If you liked my story, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel.